Hi, everybody. You're watching the Jacquie Blaze Show. Today's takeaway is all about the tips and lessons we get after dating somebody, and especially going through heartbreak. Here to talk to us about this and life in the spotlight is Kiki Morris. She's Bachelor star, and she was in Bachelor in Paradise as well. Kiki, thank you so much for joining.
Thank you so much for having me. I always love coming on and chatting about, anything to do that I can help assist young women, old women, women of all walks of life navigate their way through love and life.
I love that. It's so important to support other women. And I think we're seeing that whole movement now. And who better than you, because you are just so fun-filled and loving. Tell us about your experience on The Bachelor and, of course, Bachelor in Paradise after that. How was that?
Look, both experiences were amazing. You get to meet some amazing people. You make friendships and bonds for life with not just the cast that you see on screen, but the crew that you see behind the screens and behind, the whole production. Obviously, there aren't always success stories coming out of these reality shows because I guess when things burn really brightly, really quickly, they burn out just as fast. And when you're back in the real world, that doesn't necessarily mean that you're equipped as a couple in a relationship to tackle real world kind of issues. So coming from both of my experiences on the show, I've grown so much as a person, made amazing friends, and obviously that has given me better tools on how to navigate my way through a real life relationship now outside of both shows.
I love that. And I love how you are so open and honest about it, because sometimes it is about timing. I mean, it doesn't mean that, a guy on the show wasn't perfect for you. It just may have meant that you had lessons to learn. Or sometimes it's because we're not prepared, because we're not taught anything about love and relationships, which is why I started this podcast after uncovering a core skill set when interviewing the world's top love experts, because I was one of those people where I had no shortage of guys that I could date, but I just kept breaking up in order to learn the lesson the hard way. And then I realized, you know what? This is the wisdom that I need to have in order to be able to get through wherever I was getting blocked. And what was it like for you? Was there a pattern there? Was there, childhood issues that were popping up, or what was going on with you?
I think my problem and most girls' problems, obviously I can't speak for everyone, but I hear this with my groups of friends. I think that, you ignore red flags. And the things that, that kind of pop up in the start of a relationship are evidently become the things that create the demise and eventually the breakup of a relationship. And I think it's the media, it's all these romantic movies, it's these romantic comedies. We all have this idea of romance and the perfect relationship. And in search of that, you ignore red flags, you don't set good boundaries. And then 2 years down the track, 1 year down the track, could be 6 months down the track, you face these issues that should have been faced and boundaries should have been established way back in the beginning. And I think that's when I guess people can really be emotionally affected because they've let their boundaries slip and they've let their self-worth slip. And I think that's when, a relationship ends and you're, in crisis mode, trying to figure out where you've gone wrong, and you turn to your girlfriends and you dissect that relationship. And I think that you just need to be more true to yourself and your boundaries at the beginning of a relationship, and it'll save you a whole lot of heartache in the long term.
So well said, because oftentimes we meet someone, and as they say, love is blind, and suddenly our boundaries are out the window, because especially in that beginning phase, it's so exciting. We just want to spend all our time with them. And then what we've done is we've actually abandoned ourselves and we've handed ourselves to the relationship. And then that's why it ends in crisis, because we're not really loving ourselves. And we've always got to be loving ourselves for that relationship to keep evolving. Hence this, chat is so important for girls. Girl power is so essential. Now, let's take us into The Bachelor, because that was the first one, wasn't it? The Bachelor.
Yeah, so that was 2016. I was very young. I wasn't as young as some of the girls on the show, which also can seem quite scary. Very young, vulnerable, thinking that they're taking this, this big step in finding their soulmate, when really there's one guy and a whole lot of other different personalities coming into it. So, and a lot of people aren't used to media attention. I'd already, modeled and done a little bit of stuff with Fox Sports and things like that. So I was used to talking to camera. I was used to, wearing a microphone, being in hair and makeup. A lot of people aren't familiar with doing that. So that heightens the experience. They're out of their comfort zone. They're out of their depth. They've got no friends or family to talk to. And essentially you're competing with these girls. It's, you know, if you Google The Bachelor, it's a game show. It's a game show about love. So essentially it's a competition. So it's very hard to kind of bare your soul in the hopes to meet a guy and fall in love. And also the guy essentially may not even be your type, but you get caught up in the moment, and then you're competing for this guy and you're doing these group dates and challenges and things. And it can be quite daunting because you're well out of your comfort zone at that stage. And you're, you know, 5-6 weeks into filming going, do I even like this guy? You know, I'm dragging myself through mud and climbing up walls and doing these crazy, all these challenges. And then next thing you go, oh,
that's so spot on. And then on top of that, you've got the producers kind of, you know, doing different takes and really taking you out of the moment. And like you said, you don't even know if you like this person, because chemistry is 110% DNA. Chemistry is not something that we create, which is why women need to stop chasing and competing with other women for men, because you either have it with that one person or you don't. Not to say there's only one person, but chemistry alone is not enough. But chemistry is something that we can't create. So that would be difficult if you're like 5-6 weeks in going, I don't even really feel anything for this guy. Sure, he may be looking, but it's just not there.
Exactly. And I think as well, especially why I know that Australia, especially with the Bachelor franchise and the Bachelorette franchise, we've been really successful with our couples, like not competing with the other countries that put it on, but we have been quite successful. You know, we've got marriages, babies, like lots of love and romance. But a lot of the series franchises haven't been as successful in love. And I think it's because it is a fabricated, engineered, romantic, you know, you see the mood light come in and the music come on and everyone's like, oh, it's so romantic. When really it's two people sitting on a couch you can hear the crickets and there's a crew of 16 people filming you. But for the viewer at home, it looks like this most romantic love story and everyone gets so invested in this couple. So when they don't work out in the real world, it's very hard. You take on a lot of pressure yourself, knowing that you've got all these people that you want to be successful for because they've watched the show and they've invested it for you. So, like, I'm lucky that my season of The Bachelor, although Richie was a lovely guy, he was successful with another person, but I learned a lot from myself during my time there. And then, you know, I went on for a good another 4 years before I went on to another reality show. I had another relationship on that reality show, however, not successful. I still walked out of that unscathed because of the lessons that I learned. Like emotionally, water over a duck's back, you know, not too bad at all, really. But some people can be really badly affected by the expectation of the viewer at home and obviously the producers and things like that.
Right. So obviously, I mean, you sound like you're really together and emotionally in control. A lot of people wouldn't be. You're so right. Because, you know, they go in there and they expect to meet this soulmate and then, you know, it's so perfect. But these are filmed, I think, within like a 3-month time slot. And when you first meet somebody in that first 3 months, it's always exciting. And you don't really get to know each other in the real world because you're just in that perfect phase. Your dinner dates are set up. You're in beautiful romantic locations and, you're seeing the best of each other. What were the lessons that you learned?
Well, look, I've come off both of my series and I'm in a really happy relationship now. My partner and I have been together for a year. And a lot of people don't know that because I've learnt from my exposure in the media that private life is a happy life. So my partner and I are really happy. And the lessons that I learnt from obviously navigating the media, being on both those reality shows, having a lot of people have their opinion on the person that you're with is to follow your own heart. Obviously, don't do anything you don't feel comfortable in doing. And obviously as well, learn to see the red flags when they happen. Talk about your issues when you first kind of come across them rather than get caught up in the moment. So I think also it comes down to age as well. Like I'm 33 now and I've learned that my ideals of a relationship when I was 25 are so different now. I want security. I want someone that I can laugh with. I need a person that's going to push me and motivate me and inspire me. And I found that in my partner now. And that's because I didn't just look for the face value things like, romantic dates and things like that. We have all of those things. But at the same time, he makes me a better version of myself because he has qualities that I don't have in myself, which inspire me to find those qualities.
That's awesome. And what do you think was different about him as opposed to, some of the frogs that you had to kiss along the way? Was it timing, you were ready, or was it that he had qualities?
Yeah, I think it's a combination of timing, but also as well, he's a lot different in the sense that personality-wise, he's a little bit more shy. He shies away from the spotlight. He's not interested in, I guess, trivial, like Instagram kind of lifestyle that some people that come off reality shows are. He's very hardworking and comes from a really great family with a great family network. So I think that I looked outside of my normal realm because he didn't necessarily come looking for me. I'm so used to men approaching me, and we actually bumped into each other in an elevator, and we didn't even speak to each other. And then I bumped into him again 2 weeks later, and I said, "Oh, you're the guy from the elevator." And then from there, it was kind of just, history from then on. And I guess I think it's a bit different because women are so used to men having to chase and these grand gestures and, the digital world sliding into girls' DMs and, it wasn't like that. No. And I think that's why it makes it different.
Yeah, no, and I love that. And I'm so glad that you're bringing it up. You are awesome for bringing that up, in fact, because the women at home often think that men need to chase them. In fact, they won't reach out to men because they want to be pursued. And ladies, it's not about that at all. It's about, a connection that you have. And it's not about going out and looking for a relationship. It just happens. The falling in love part happens. That is the easy part. You have to be ready for when that relationship actually comes along and you've done the work on yourself, either as Kiki has by going on reality shows and sometimes learning the lessons the hard way, or whatever it is, whether it's just dating or whether it's reading, relationship books or listening to podcasts such as this. You have to actually do the internal work to be ready. The relationship will come along and it can happen so fast. And when it does, it just clicks and it connects. And it's just magical for the first 3 months. And then you still have to do work on it, right? It's not just always smooth sailing. Fights happen. That's a normal part of any relationship. Now, let me ask you.
Absolutely.
So when you first met him in the lift, did you think about him after that? Was it one of those moments? Because I know with myself, when I met my partner, I met him, had a conversation with him, but didn't really think anything of him for 2 weeks until I bumped into him again. In fact, I couldn't really even remember him. So that was interesting. Because I wasn't ready. I had actually, not been ready until probably a few days before that when I actually truly gave up and didn't want a relationship. And then in he came, and that's when I went, wow, he's got something special. There's something.
Very similar scenarios. I think I had recently moved into a new house when I met my new partner. I was moved out on my own. It was very daunting. I hadn't lived alone in a few years. And I was kind of like in my own mind thinking like, it's going to be really challenging for me. I haven't been on my own, and it was just about the start of COVID as well. So COVID was just happening, very isolating time. And just so happens we bumped into each other the second time after I saw him in the elevator. And I was walking home to my new house, and had my groceries and some homewares, and I was in my head, had my headphones in, and I bump into him again in the street, and I recognized him straight away. And we just started a conversation. And funnily enough, he actually said to me, he's like, "Oh, after I saw you for that first time, I said to my friends, I just saw the most beautiful girl get in the elevator and I didn't know who she was. And here you are again." So it was a little bit like, I'm a little bit superstitious and stuff like that in heart. And I feel like it was a little bit like fate because
that's exactly.
I had officially started a new phase of my life, moved out of my old apartment, had gotten rid of, past, heartbreak and heartache, moving into a new house, new energy, staged the house, got my crystals out, did all that stuff.
I love it.
And I was actively thinking to myself, I'm ready for a new phase of my life. And I think through that manifestation, that positive manifestation, whether or not people believe in it or not, it definitely put me in that mindset that I was in a positive mindset to think, hang on a second, I'm going to give this a shot. And, a year later, we're really happy. I'm really grateful that I've been through what I've been through to be at this stage of my life now.
Absolutely, because if it wasn't for those lessons, you wouldn't know how to be in this relationship, and you probably wouldn't even be ready, because it is those pivotal lessons that actually help us to be able to work it out. Because if we want to work it out, there are enough tools out there. We can date and learn the hard way, or we can, as I said earlier, read a book or listen to podcasts such as this. But it is about being ready, because being in the relationship doesn't mean that it's all magical and that everything is just perfect and it's always rosy and there's always laughter. It is about doing that work, because relationships are set up so that exactly what we actually meet in that person challenges us so that we can actually grow. And it sounds like the two of you are perfect for each other because you balance each other. Him not being in the limelight is something that you actually appreciate about him, because having been so in the limelight with two shows, that, you know, you were so strong to get through, but I mean, you're only human. It would have affected your feelings. I'm sure there were probably times where you felt like, oh gosh, this feels terrible, or, you know, I can't even imagine. I could never do that. So hats off to you, because, you know, I think you're so strong for being able to do that. I've always been a little bit more shy and reserved that way, which is ironic because I'm doing this podcast. But you know, it's awesome. I think that it's great because that actually prepared you for being with this guy. And I love that we've been together for a year, and you can honestly say that it's a happy, healthy relationship, because as you said earlier, a lot of people can get to that 1 year mark and they're like, oh, I ignored the red flags. And now you see the red flags, but it's so difficult to, you know, get out of it because it's heartbreaking to go through a breakup. What are some red flags that you had to, that you hadn't maybe noticed in previous relationships that our audience at home can maybe benefit from, that, you know, was, you know, could he have been rude, for example? I know I dated someone who was rude to restaurant staff, and at first I thought that was just because he was a strong business guy, and then I realized, no, he's just rude. But what was yours? And Kiki, I always like to say to girls also, there are red flags, there are orange flags, and there are yellow flags. Yellow and orange flags are stuff that sometimes we personally get triggered by because we have a baggage from past relationships. But what were some of the red flags that our girls at home should look out for?
I think in my 20s and my early 30s, I think I was trying to be harmonious and not cause conflict. But the thing is, if you don't speak up for what you stand for, you become a doormat. And I think just, again, basic respect, communication. There's no such thing as a person who's too busy. If a person goes all day without texting you, it's because they're not thinking about you. Even the busiest businessman, the CEO of whatever company, can send a text, hey, babe, really busy. Well, let's talk tonight. Let's have a chat on the way home, or something to that regard. They respect you and they value you. They'll reach out. So little things like that, that you would, in your head, know consciously that you're going, is he ignoring me? Oh, no, he's just busy. If your gut instinct's telling you that, trust it. They're ignoring you. So a person who doesn't communicate well with you, doesn't make you feel like a priority, that's a red flag. Because eventually you end up not making yourself a priority as well. Getting their attention and their validation will be your priority over your own needs and self-respect. So that's something that I will always say, please trust your gut. And also things like, I just think controlling behavior as well, like not being allowed to go out with your friends and doing things like that. I think it's so important that you still have your own identity, and you still maintain the person that you were when you entered the relationship. The person that you're in a relationship with is merely meant to make your life better. They're not meant to take your whole life from you, you know what I mean, and control it. So always maintain your friends, your own personal interests, because that will always help you maintain your identity. And yeah, that's
not
my two biggest.
They're brilliant. You are awesome. Actually, you should come on and be a coach on here, I think, because you have got it. Obviously, you've been through so much to get to where you are, but you know what? It's been worth it, because look at the relationship you have now. And I can tell you that this is a true love relationship. It's one that's staying, because, it's a specialization of mine for 11 years. So I'm used to seeing it after so much research, and I've been through it myself. But more than that, you get it, because our relationship isn't there to be one-sided. It's there to enhance us. It's there to make us feel better. Because when we talk about security, we're not just talking about financial security, ladies. We're talking about feeling confident and in love with ourselves and happy in the relationship. And if you're constantly waiting for someone to text you or to chase you or to, do something for you, then what you're doing is, you're handing all your power across to the relationship. And happiness is an inside job. It's something that we need to claim and we need to be responsible for. What tips do we have for our ladies out there? I mean, you're gorgeous and you have it all. And then after that, I want you to tell us about your career and how real is Instagram and everything that happens on screen and how that affects your relationship.
That's right. So Instagram has really blown up. Obviously, people have seen the impact that it has on people's lives financially, how it's affected people's businesses. There's no such thing as these big advertising campaigns anymore that we used to see in magazines. Instagram is such a huge commodity. I have, obviously, off the back end of my reality TV exposure, got a lot of followers from Instagram, but I was quite prevalent in the Instagram world prior to that. But I can't believe how much it's blown up. And you have to have a really strong wits about yourself, because everyone's comparing themselves to each other on social media. People are comparing their relationships. People find that relationship breakdown and communication is caused sometimes by Instagram, because people can go on for instant gratification and get likes and follows from other people, and they're not cultivating the relationship that they're in. They're looking for gratification elsewhere. So I think that understanding that Instagram and the following that you receive is literally 1% of your value. You know, your core value should be about how you impact people's lives personally, as opposed to how they like a photo. And I think that a lot of people's relationships are broken down because of the Instagram world. So my partner and I, we're very transparent with one another. He supports me, I support him. And I think that also having down a bit of, I guess, a technology detox when you're together, putting your phones down at night as well, and having that quality time together.
I love that. That's so important, right? The whole, digital detox is vital, because if you just don't switch off, it constantly becomes your life, and it's not reality. How much of it is reality versus, a facade that we put on?
Look, for me personally, my Instagram is my reality. Like, I post products that I do believe in, that I do use. I do go about my day to day. Everyone sees my dog, my family, that kind of stuff. But there are people out there that literally only show the glossy, like, high flying world, like they're on vacations, they've got luxury goods. And I think that also sets a precedent for themselves, that they can never have bad days. Like, my Instagram followers and the world don't ever see me having a bad day. So I can't have a bad day. Who can I turn to talk about that? People feel very isolated because they live behind a phone screen. They never really truly emote with people from their core. And I think that also helps create a lot of distance between, like, society and these Instagram people, these with millions of followers. I can't imagine how isolating it would feel.
Well, I think COVID has proven that perfectly, because that detachment created so much anxiety, so much sadness, depression, etc. So it goes to prove that we actually need human connection. And I love that you said, we need to connect from the core, and to expect to always have good days is so unrealistic, because nobody has perfect days all the time. It's about having polarity. We need bad days to grow so that we can understand what good days are, and like it or not, that's just going to happen. I absolutely love your advice. It's such a pleasure to have you on. Kiki, where can everybody find you?
You can find me on Instagram. It's Kiki Morris. But also you can find me, if you see me out in the street, if you're from Australia and you see me on the street, approach me and say hi. I'd much prefer to meet you in person than talk on Instagram. But my Instagram handle is Kiki Morris.
All right. So where do you hang out? Where can everyone find you?
I live in the eastern suburbs. Yeah, I'm in the eastern suburbs. I'm always out at the beach. I'm always just shopping around the mall, at the gym. If you do see me and spot me, come up and say hello.
Excellent. I love it. I'm definitely going to be lunching with you soon, because we have so much to talk about. This can go on and on. Before we leave you, tell us about your morning routine. What do you do from when you wake up?
I wake up in the morning, I take my dog for a walk outside. Then I generally like to hit the gym, or I catch up on my emails. And hopefully I get an exercise in, or go down to the beach by about lunchtime. And then I break fast for the day and then eat something nice and healthy.
I love that. And what sort of exercise do you enjoy?
I'm walking a lot at the moment. I actually did sell my car at the start of COVID. So I've been walking. I'm clocking up like 25,000 steps a day at the moment. But I also go to the gym. My partner and I train together. So that's really good. It's a great couples bonding experience as well. He's always giving me pointers and hot tips. So, yeah.
Well, you look absolutely amazing. So obviously he's giving you some really good tips. We'll have to have the both of you on the next episode, I suppose. We'll do a follow-up. Sure. It's been an absolute pleasure, Kiki. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Gentlemen, Kiki Morris.